Remember when scissor doors were just for James Bond cars? Not anymore. This is the AION Hyper GT. Yes, this is the AION Hyper GT, the first car from AION's new Hyper brand. What a stunning piece of kit it is. Absolutely beautiful, amazingly slick design. Not least because of those dramatic scissor doors, but look at this. It looks like it's designed by water. Super fluid design all over, almost no creases, no edges. Down here we've got an adjustable grille that can close completely to make this car incredibly aero efficient. So aero efficient, in fact, it is the car with the lowest drag coefficient of any production car in the world, beating out the Mercedes-Benz EQS with just a CD of 0.197. Absolutely beautiful. But this car is also smart. Looking here, got a lidar unit there, lidar unit on top, and one over there as well. 3 lidar units to support the Adigo 5.0 ADAS system, which is level 3 capable, but of course it's not allowed to just yet in China. We've got a few cool contrast details here. Got black down there at the lower grille. Also got these black alloy wheels, 19-inch. They look very, very striking, as does this turquoise brake caliper inside as well. That stands out quite a bit. These doors, we've got sensors here, so they don't open into things that you don't want. And to close it, you simply press the button on the side there. There's nothing quite like the feeling of getting out or in of this car. It makes such a dramatic entrance. Super sleek along the side. We've also got a rear spoiler, which sits on the back of this almost 4.9 meter long body. Same dimensions pretty much as an Xpeng P7. Dramatic rear spoiler, of course, helps the aero flow. You can activate this with a checkered flag button on the steering wheel. When it closes, comes together, drops down in there to give you a very sleek tail. Intricate detailed lights here, they're quite attractive at night time. And we've got a gloss black plastic diffuser at the bottom, as well as an electric tailgate. But I can't tell you how much space is in here. I've got no idea. We do have 60/40 folding rear seats. We do get a lot of space under the boot floor as well. It looks fairly practical actually. Probably get a couple of big suitcases in there, no problem. We've also got a small frunk at the front as well. But a very attractive design. Let's go and check out the interior and climb in to this rather stylish cabin. And once you do climb in, well, it's quite dramatic inside. As I said, got to enjoy the fact that you get to watch the door come down like that when you press the brake pedal. But in here, we've got a lot of attractive material. Got Nappa leather on the steering wheel and on the chairs here. Also got kind of like a neoprene style material up at the top. Leather on the top of the dashboard, on the doors, more squidgy materials here, and yellow doors, which I really like. They contrast quite cool with the black stuff, and metal grills on the speakers, and a kind of towely-like surface up here at the top. Again, just feels very, very premium, and some black wood here on the dashboard as well, real wood, around this wireless charging area. What I really like is this steering wheel, which is kind of a rounded off square shape, but it feels much more compact than a normal steering wheel. I've got no proof that it's actually smaller, but it feels a lot smaller, much more like a go-kart, and really helps you feel more directly in control of the vehicle. But I'll talk more about that when we're driving. On here, we've got roller wheels, the kind that you get on a Tesla or an Avatar. Don't particularly like pressing them sideways, but the roller part works fine. And they've got simple buttons here, 4 buttons, including the checkered flag button, which activates the rear spoiler. Now what I really like is that we've moved the display for the speed right to the back of the dashboard. And that is good for 2 reasons, because it's right in your eye line, which means it's much closer to where you're looking. You don't have to get distracted. It's not hidden behind the steering wheel. And it also provides a real depth to the cabin, which almost makes you feel like you're traveling through hyperspace, like all the particles are separating at speed, especially combined with this really sharply raked A-pillar. Just gives you a feeling of real momentum with that screen being all the way back there. As well as that screen, we have a 14.6-inch screen here with a 2.5K resolution. It runs on 8155, so the system itself runs fairly quick. The screen itself is not always quite as responsive as the chip behind it is, so that can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but it works pretty well. You've got your draggable ventilation at the bottom here, which you'll know by now that I really, really like. And of course, you've got activation for your heating and ventilation in here. So you can change your heating and ventilation on these front two chairs. The back seats, they don't get that. And we get a massage function on the driver's seat as well. There's a whole bunch of other settings in there as well. And then there's also gaming here as well. You can probably play some games on that screen, but I'm not certain about that. As well as that, we get quite a lot of space. So we get space in the door pockets, big space under the dashboard with USB and USB-C, fairly reasonable space in the center console there, and a pair of cup holders, of course. We get one wireless charger on the left side. This one is not a wireless charger. This isn't the fastest wireless charger in the world. Probably would like that to be a little bit quicker. And it's also, oh, it is ventilated. There you go, very good. It does have that. We've also got a high-end 23 speaker sound system. So we've got Dolby Atmos speakers all over this car, and I believe they are 5.1.4 for surround sound. We've also got a couple here in the headrest that give you instructions while you're driving. We also get steering, adjustable for reach and rake, which is manual down here, which I like, of course. And what I really like is these chairs, because you get a lot of tilt adjustment. So you can put the tilt up really high. You don't get base cushion length adjustment, sadly, but the tilt really does help you to get into more of a, almost like a bucket seat feel. I feel like I'm in a racing car here. You can probably see from the tilt angle that I'm quite far back, and it really makes you feel, I don't know, just much more dynamic while you're driving. So I do like the adjustability of this chair. I also like these yellow seat belts because they're awesome. Here in the back, because we are in a battery electric saloon, a very sleek one at that, we are a bit more limited in terms of vertical space. So you can see that my hair is really quite close to this panoramic roof. I don't feel claustrophobic because of the roof, but we are a bit closer to it there. This panoramic roof, by the way, runs almost the full length of the cabin. Doesn't come with a sun visor though, so it might get hot in here on sunny days. Footroom is also a little bit tight because that chair is quite low down there, but plenty of knee room, so it's not uncomfortable in here. You could certainly do a long journey. The seat is firm and comfortable enough, so you're going to enjoy sitting in the back of here. You get a few creature comforts as well, some ventilation down there, a USB-C socket and an armrest with a pair of twin cup holders in there. Also, these seats fold 40-60, as I mentioned earlier, to get, you know, longer items in here if you need them. And to get out, you use this handle here at the end of the armrest. And I'm going to use that because I really want to tell you what it's like to be in that chair while driving. Now, we've established that the Hyper GT is very sporty and stylish to look at, but what I genuinely wasn't expecting was for the performance to match those looks. It is really, really an enjoyable car to drive. And it starts with the steering. I mentioned this earlier when I talked about the small steering wheel that feels a bit like a go-kart. We've got the high tilt angle on the base, the low driving position, the laid back seat. It does feel like a large go-kart. And the steering itself, it plays a big part in that because it's very, very light. Light, almost as light actually as the Hi-Fi Y, which is the lightest steering that I've ever felt. But it's got so much more feel than that. It feels very precise, very intricate. I think this car has kind of, I mean, it should probably 50-50 weight distribution, but it feels very on the nose, very pointy. It's just very pleasant to drive. I would say it almost feels so light that it's kind of like dancing, almost like it's dancing on water. Really, really impressive driving experience, and I love driving this car around. Now, I mentioned that we have a rear-wheel drive platform. This car comes currently with two options of motors. The first one is a 180 kilowatt motor with 355 Newton meters of torque. That will do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.5 seconds, which is pretty impressive for a motor of that size. The larger motor, which we have, is 250 kilowatts with 430 Newton meters of torque, and that will do 0 to 100 in just 4.9 seconds, which again, really quite impressive for a motor of that size. And apparently there is a dual motor version of this car in the offing, which I expect to be blisteringly quick when it comes out, given that quite short 0 to 100 kilometer sprint time, even with a single motor version. Now, this car does have a bigger brother. It is the Hyper SSR. It's kind of a hypercar that is claimed to be able to do 0 to 100 in 1.9 seconds. So I'm expecting this car to maybe get low threes, possibly even high twos with dual motors, in which case it will be face-peelingly quick for a family car. Now, this is a family car. It is a mid-sized sedan, I would say, in terms of dimensions. Very, very similar to the Xpeng P7. So it's 4.88 meters long, 1.885 meters wide, so quite narrow and good for the city, and 1.449 meters tall, with a wheelbase of 2.92 meters. So a pretty decent amount of space between the axles as well.
And this car is going straight up against the Xpeng P7 in terms of price as well. I think you get a lot of value for money with this car. It starts at just 219,900 RMB and rises to 339,900 RMB for the full top-end version with all the bells and whistles that we have on ours. It comes with a choice of 3 batteries, and it's also quite interesting in this respect as well, because you get a 59.9 kilowatt hour battery, a 70.1 kilowatt hour battery, and an 80.1 kilowatt hour battery. But it's the middle one of those that will be of interest to most of you, because it is battery changeable. So that you can actually do battery swapping on this car. It's an LFP battery, and apparently at the AION battery swap centres it should be able to be changed within 2 minutes, even as low as 90 seconds I've heard. Now the caveat to that is that GAC only have 8 battery swap centres currently in the country, so most people, unless you're probably in Guangzhou, where I expect most of those are probably not going to go for the battery swap option. But they are planning to have 500 swap stations by 2025, which will make it much more worthwhile having at that point. Now those batteries will get you ranges of 560 kilometers on the smallest battery. That's CLTC, so expect to take about 100 to 120 kilometers off that. The middle battery, the swappable one, will get you 600 kilometers of range on CLTC, and the largest battery, the 80.1 kilowatt hour battery, will do 710 kilometers of range. That's the one that we have in our car. Apparently, according to AION, this car just sips at those volts at just 11.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which, if true, would be quite impressive. I haven't got those figures on the car, so I can't really see if that is the case or not, but very, very impressive low figures there, partially down to the fact that this car has the first all-aluminium battery electric vehicle chassis in China, apparently. It's AEP 3.0, that's the name of it, AION's latest platform, and it's also 800 volt capable, so it will charge very quick. AION claim as much as 450 kilometers in just 15 minutes, which would be game-changing if true. That is very, very impressive. This chassis is also capable of supporting the high-end autonomous driving that is being pushed here in China. So AION's system is called ADIGO. So this version has ADIGO 5.0, supported by those 3 lidar units and a bunch of cameras and sensors as well. It apparently is level 2++ currently, but is level 3 capable. Now I've tried it, and in practice it is very, very good 95% of the time. It does definitely need some polishing because it makes pretty abrupt lane changes. I prefer to glide across the lanes like this. It makes quite abrupt lane changes, and a couple of times it did cut in front of cars that were approaching quite quickly from behind. So it does need some polishing. No one's saying that autonomous driving is perfect yet. It's not even close to being natural on any of the cars that I've driven. But this car is level 3 capable as and when that becomes an option, and they can get a license for that here in China. Those lidar units, by the way, they give a view of about 300 degree view of the road, and they can look 250 meters into the distance, so they should be quite useful for safe driving at night. Quite an impressive system all in all, and genuinely a really, really enjoyable car to drive. I've absolutely loved every minute with this car. So that's it for our review of the Hyper GT. Honestly, one of my favorite cars of the year. I was not expecting this performance. I thought it would be good. I thought it would look cool. I knew that. I've seen it before with the scissor doors. Didn't know we'd get the triple lidar setup, so we got a bit of tech in there as well. But it's the way that this car drives that really makes you feel engaged. That sort of go-kart-like steering and seating position. Also the performance, the rear drive platform, it's super zippy, very, very quick. Feels like it's very light on its feet. I love the way that it makes you feel when you're driving it. I'm genuinely considering one of these for myself. It's also excellent value for money, and I really hope that they bring this out of China so that other people can try it as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and if you do, thank you for subscribing. We'll catch you next time.